Welcome back to Introduction to Engineering Design. This is Module 5.2b, and we're working on our windscreen today, which is it goes on the top of the Automoblox car. So here we are, step 3. We're going to create a 3D model of the windscreen. This 3D model is based off of your drawing package for this exercise, and we've got a drawing package that depicts the green plastic windscreen, a side view, and we'll notice a few dimensions here. We've got 3.01 inches from the front of this arc, which is a 6-inch radius arc, to the back of the model. So we look at this and say it's fairly complex. We start out with a straight line along the horizon, a 6-inch arc, which intercepts a 0.4-inch arc, which intercepts another 6-inch arc back down to the end of that line. So let's start out in Solidworks. We're going to use some geometric relationships that we recently learned. So we'll start out with a new part, and we're going to go right in and start a feature of extruding it, because we're going to extrude the body. Let's go in the right plane. To start, choose your line tool, start at the origin, stretch out a line. Doesn't really matter its length, just that it's horizontal. All right, get out of your line tool, and let's start a dimension of that line right away, and that ends up being 3.04 inches. And let's draw our first little 6-inch arc, and it's just a little stub of the arc. You'll see over here in our arc tool that we can use a center point, tangent, or 3-point arc. We're going to use a 3-point arc, start at the origin, and just drop it up there a little ways. Now, on a 3-point arc, depending on where I put my cursor, depends on where the radius goes. And I just want it to stick a little bit out like that for now, because I'm going to go ahead and give it some dimensions. And I want to give it a landing spot. I want to tell how high it is and how far it is from the back edge, because that's a good reference for us to start our next arc. So this height from that point on the end to the line, which forms the bottom of the windscreen, that is 0.64 inches. You'll see it blows up my diagram a little bit. And from the end of my windscreen to the end of that arc, you'll notice I can draw a line that is a straight path, or if I keep bringing my cursor up, it transforms into a horizontal line, a horizontal distance. So let's go ahead and do the horizontal distance and drop that. And that is going to be a 3.01, meaning that this end point is just slightly behind the origin. You go, well, that doesn't look anything like our drawing, does it? No, and that's because the radius here, I've not yet defined it. That's also why it's underdefined. So let's define this radius as 6 inches. So we're going to dimension that, drop it, and put a 6 in. Looks a little bit closer now, doesn't it? Okay, so we've drawn that first stub of an arc. The next thing that we really want to draw is we kind of want to draw a smaller 0.4 radius arc that starts at the end of the arc that we just drew and ends at some unknown point up here. And we're not going to worry too much about where that unknown point is right now, because I'll show you a way to get around that. So again, a 3-point arc. We're going to click, drag it out, drop it, and make our arc go the correct way. Accept it. Apply a dimension of 0.4 inches. Now we look pretty close to what our drawing appears. There's our 0.4 arc, but we're not real sure because we haven't defined where that point is. That's why that line is blue, so it doesn't know where it ends. So let's draw our last arc, and our last arc starts at the back of the model, projects to connect to our small stub 0.40 arc, and just sits up there somewhere. We'll accept that arc, and let's give it some dimensions. So we know that this radius is 6 inches. You go, that looks pretty darn close. And we just lucked out, and it does look close. But let's see how we can stretch this and goof this drawing up, because yours may not look like that. So I'm just going to go to a select tool and grab this pin, and you can see you could end up something like that. And that still meets all the constraints of the drawing. This is a 0.4 radius, this is a 6-inch radius, but it doesn't look at all like our windscreen. The way we make it look like our windscreen is we add tangential relationships between these two arcs. So in other words, it smoothly flows from the 6-inch arc to the 0.4-inch arc, from the 0.4-inch arc back to the 6-inch arc. So we learned how to do that, and you'll see that this will take care of all of the issues within the sketch. So we're going to add a relation. Let's go ahead and pick our first entity, which is the 6-inch arc, and our second entity, which is the 0.4-inch arc. We're going to make a tangent relationship, meaning that it's a seamless transfer between the two. And accept that. And now we're going to clear our window and choose our 0.4 and our 6-inch arc below and make that a tangent relationship. And that brings our model back into shape. It also ends up making it fully defined model. So now we've got a nice cross section of our windscreen. And your drawing should look approximately like this. So it's not overly dimensioned. We're using geometric constraints, which is exactly what we want to do. So next, let's exit the sketch, and we're going to extrude it. We need to extrude it the width of the windscreen shown here. So you can see that our width of our windscreen, let me go over here a little bit, is 2.55 inches from outside to outside. So we just did the cross section. We're going to do the width, 2.55. So to do that, instead of doing a blind extrusion, I want to do a mid-plane extrusion, which will center the windscreen about the origin. It makes it very easy to do some follow-on work and use mirror features. We'll accept that mid-plane extrusion, and we're out at 2.55 inches. Our next step will be to apply a fillet, a 0.5-inch radius fillet around these edges, and that will give it a curved appearance that the molded plastic has. So this is what the blockish extrusion looks like. Before we go too far, let's go ahead and apply an attribute to it. So we can either edit the appearance and just color it over on our color window, or we can actually change into a plastic material. So let's make it a plastic material, and we're going to make it green. And maybe they've got a green. They do have a green high gloss plastic. So we've applied the attribute of it being green. And now let's apply our fillets. Now, because we have a tangential relationship, you'll see that this is a continuous curve. If it wasn't a continuous curve, we wouldn't be able to apply a fillet to it. So let's go ahead and propagate our fillet via the tangent, which you'll see right over here, and that's a default that's selected the way your workstation is configured. We're going to make this 0.5 inches, and we are going to preview it. Now you'll see that radius has been established, and on the opposing side. Click to select it, and you know what we didn't do? We didn't apply that color to our part. We applied it only to the extrusion. So let me fix this and make it apply to everything in there. There we go. Actually, let me make it the part. That'll be even better. So it'll stay green as we work on it some more. So there we've got our finished windscreen outline. And what we've learned to do there is we've learned to make that complex geometry. The last thing we're going to do is shell it out. So we're going to roll it onto its bottom. And shell just means carve out. And we're going to use the shell tool located up here on your feature menu bar. Click shell, and it asks you a couple of questions. The first thing it says is how thick is the wall, the parameters. From our drawing, we'd like to make that wall 0.07 inches thick. So we'll enter in 0.07, and then we're going to select the object we're going to shell out, or the face, and that face is shown as face 1, which happens to be the bottom. Now we can preview it and see what it'll do, and you can kind of make a You can kind of make out what that will do. It will make a hollow shell out of that assembly. So let's go ahead and apply that. And now you can see you've got a hollow shell for your windscreen. So I'm going to go back to my default view here. And there we've got our windscreen started. So we'll move on. We'll make some interior modifications to this here in the next video. But this is 5.2, making the windscreen, part 1.